Yo, what's up, gamers? WQ here. Guys, if you're not an alpha gamer, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Become an alpha gamer today. Join the Day Revolution. Change your gameplay. So, this week has been a weird week for me in gameplay. I spent the first week really wondering, testing out my new abilities, my new skill, and then I spent the last week continuing to wonder what exactly is going on here. It's very interesting. So I stopped resetting back in June, and this was a huge move for me because, one, what is this going to mean? What's going to happen? Is anything going to happen? What's going to change in my gameplay when I stop resetting? I think this big question a lot of people have for speedrunning because no one's ever done it before. It's never been tested. And the first thing, my light roll got much worse. My early game did in fact get worse. I became a lot less consistent in the early part of the game, and a lot of this was due to the fact that I can't YOLO light roll. It's just not worth it because I don't want to do this run on plus 3 minutes. So I can't risk it in light roll, and I had to do safer strats. I had to reevaluate a lot of my strats, and I ended up losing a lot of time. At first, it's sort of recovered since then, but they did take a huge hit when I started resetting. And then another thing, big question for me was, am I going to see an improvement in my gameplay or improvement in consistency ever at any point? Because this is people's primary question. Are you going to be more consistent if you stop resetting? Most people would suggest no, and that's because they suggest no because it's the gameplay that fuels the consistency. It's not the results. The results don't fuel consistency. It's the actual gameplay. It's how you play that makes you consistent. So, someone who's consistent, if they mechanically reset a lot, their consistency is the same, right? So, I sort of agree. And I will actually, yeah, I could see. No, I won't be more consistent. But since I stopped resetting, I became more consistent every month, and then I actually don't think I think my consistency this month is going to go down. But every single month I've become more consistent. My average run has gone down. My average mean, median, and well, I guess mode, but my median and mean average average run has gone down. I'm getting more good runs, less deaths, and then less bad runs. Every statistic, my average run over 3 months. 3 of those 5 months. So 2 of those 5 months I didn't play energy. But 3 of those 5 months, I did play 80%, and I saw a statistical improvement. I think from June I did about 80 runs. July and October I did about 40 to 50, which is a reasonable sample size. And most of those months I played almost every day. So it's a reasonable and it's a comparable sample size, and every stat has gone down. That's crazy. But am I more consistent? Does that mean I'm more consistent? You could argue yes and no, and it's possible. It's only a 3-month sample size. Maybe there's something else going on here. Now, what I'm actually arguing is that I think that if you don't reset ever, you completely stop resetting, it'll actually change the brain. It'll force you to create new strategies, right? And then I think through those strategies, it's possible someone can actually, and not just consistency. I'm not actually looking for just consistency here, but I'm looking for superior gameplay. I don't care. I've never cared about consistency. I'm probably the most consistent speedrunner. I've never cared about consistency. I do not give a shit about consistency. It doesn't matter. Consistency doesn't actually affect anything, right? Consistency doesn't do anything. So I don't care about consistency. I want to get better at the game, and I think by getting better at the game, I'm going to become. That's why I'm so consistent. I'm just really good at the game. I think by getting even better, I'm going to become even more consistent. And something happened at the beginning of October. I don't remember what. I actually have no idea what. I don't remember, and honestly, whatever. But something happened in my brain. I remember, and I made a video about it, actually. Wow, what's going on? And I became like way more consistent, and I was way more confident per run. And my stats like went way down. I'm like, what's going on here? But I don't exactly remember what happened, and I wasn't expecting that. Like, I'm not playing for that, so I kind of just like wrote it off. I was like, whatever, who cares? But something very big happened about a week. It's about 11 days ago, I guess. It's 10 days ago. Very big. Something very big happened. Somehow I stopped looking at my timer, and very weird. This is so weird for me. Like, how did that happen? What did I do? What the hell happened there? And I wish I remembered, because I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, what the fuck happened? This is something I was not expecting at all. Like, I'm not expecting. I've always looked at my timer. I love looking at the timer. I'm a huge timer nut. I time everything. I know every room transition. I know all my golds. I know my PB almost everywhere. I love the timer. You know, I do a lot of runs. I track the timer a lot. Randomly, I like completely stopped looking at it. I have no inclination to look at it. I have no desire to look at it. I mean, we went from like this was in the middle of a run. This went from 100 to 0 in the middle of a run. I don't know how. I have no idea how, and I'm like still wondering like what the fuck happened. Whatever the case, I'm accepting that, because I think, and actually the reason I think looking at the timer is worse, and so that's why I stopped. I was thinking about it. You know, it's worse to look at the timer. It's like it's slower. It's actually slower. That's why I stopped looking at it, because I think it's slower. So of course I stopped looking at it, which is a big deal. But that has a ton of implications itself. It's, you know what else is slower? Tilting is slower, right? There's a lot of things that we do that we shouldn't do that's slower, and I'm not like, I can't not tilt. I pretty much, I do a run, I'm tilting all over the place. Like, that's not something I can really just change. Even though I'd like to stop tilting, but that's not really something I can just like randomly change. But at this rate, I think that's up next, because I did a run earlier today and I wasn't happy with my result. It was a good run, and the run is fine. It was a great run, but I wasn't happy with the result. I wasn't happy with my own tilting, right? I mean, everyone's tilting. I don't actually think tilting's that big of a deal, because, at least in speedrunning, because usually you get one good run. It's not the biggest problem in the world. Like, there's all these problems. I think it's a much bigger problem in other games, and even then, not really, because like look at Melee for I always look at 3 games: speedrunning, Linked Bass, Melee, and League of Legends. Right? I play those games. I'm pretty good at all those games. I have a good understanding of them. And they're very different. So I like looking at these 3 games. So in speedrunning, I don't think tilting is that big of a deal, because you usually get one very good run, one very good PB, and then you kind of, nothing else really matters. So, and rarely do people tilt on that run because it's so good and they just all in on it. So tilting in speedrunning is not actually that big of a deal generally. It hurts you, right? I mean, it's not good, but it's not that actually a big deal. Melee, kind of the same deal, because most people tilt hard in friendlies. Most people tilt hard in tournament when they don't really care, but when it really comes down to the matter and they care, in big tournaments, nationals, or when they really care in like in local tournaments, no, they don't tilt. People aren't really tilting. So when it matters, people generally aren't tilting. And then League, similar deal. So where's the one place people tilt and don't play well? It's solo queue. Solo queue doesn't matter at all. You see in these gigantic tournaments. I don't. The players, and actually, I do think the players tilt, but not really. Everything's completely different. They don't tilt as much, so I don't think tilting is actually that big of a deal. If you just try to focus on general movement, general gameplay, you're actually usually going to get farther than if you try to not tilt. If you go to some extreme effort to not tilt, you probably have more fun if you go to some extreme effort not tilting. But you're probably not going to be a better player in the long run, right? But I think why not do both? And I'm at the point where it's like, well, I can easily. Or maybe I could just randomly stop tilting, because it's slower. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you ever tilt, it's slower. And there's a second aspect of tilting. So there's 2 sides of tilting. I talked about this actually a year ago, because I tried to conquer tilting a year ago and I wasn't able to do it. I did start tilting less, and I stopped tilting significantly since I started doing these reset runs. But there's still 2 sides of tilting. There's the bad side, where you make an error and you get really mad. Everybody knows this, and everybody's afraid of this, right? But there's the other side too, the opposite side of the coin, where you do something good and then you're like, sick, I'm great, and I'm a good player. Look at what I did, guys. It's the same thing. One is a negative and one's a positive emotion, right? People think the negative tilting is worse because it's a snowball, where you make one mistake and then you get mad, and then because you're not focused on the game, you make another mistake, right? So it creates a snowball, which is true. And positive tilting would never create a snowball, but you do something good and then you make a mistake, well, you're still doing good, so you don't care. But it actually does create another problem, because how do you how do it's still limiting your gameplay. It's still you're still playing worse and it's still limiting your gameplay. How can you become a god? How can you get godlike times in a speedrun, for example, if you're constantly focused on performing well? I mean, you basically couldn't ever do well. If you do well, you tilt, and then we'll call it tilting. You do well, and then you think you're good, and you get distracted, right? You celebrate too early, right? And then you get distracted. You can never perform at the highest peak. You're limited. You're limited by that. I mean, this isn't good. I mean, it's not much worse than constantly snowballing downhill. Usually why people tilt when they're going downhill anyway is because almost certainly they've lost and it doesn't really matter. Like, I think the whole tilting thing, maybe it's worse to tilt when you celebrate too early, or maybe I don't exactly know what's going on with tilting. So that's another thing. I don't exactly know what's going on with tilting, and I think most people's perceptions of tilting is just completely off the mark. It's off the mark completely. And most people's solutions to tilting make very little sense. And if you wonder what I'm talking about, go ask Melee players what they think about tilting. Go ask these League of Legends casters or pros. I actually think pros will give you good advice, like actual pros, good players. They'll give you good advice or good thoughts on it. Or hopefully they will, but most people are, and especially the casters, it's usually casters, because casters they're not pros and they wish they were, and they generally have a lot of resentment. So oftentimes these casters give you terrible advice. But let's go back to tilting. What is tilting? And this is what I'm looking at right here. I'm not really sure, guys, and if I can or can't conquer tilting, oh well. Because on my good runs, I'm not really that tilted. So it's not the worst case in the world. And actually, tilting it's really something else. It's not really tilting. It's something else. It's lack of focus. When you're not focused, you tilt, right? If you're so focused on the game, you would not have time to tilt. You wouldn't even have time to think, where is your run? Am I on PB pace? Am I doing good? Is this run good or bad? You would not have time to think that because you'd be so focused on the relevant information. How good the run is not relevant. It's completely irrelevant to the gameplay. And this is something that this is the change. This has been the change in me. This past week and a half I've been exploring. This is the primary change where, why did I stop looking at the timer? Why did I stop looking at the timer? I stopped looking at the timer because I'm more focused on the game. That's why. And I realized I have all this extra freedom to focus. I have a lot of extra freedom. What do I do with this freedom? I have no idea. And I tried experimenting with, I was talking about not making mistakes. This is kind of the follow-up video to that video. What about this not making mistakes idea? It's bunk, guys. I tried it out. I tried it out for about 10 minutes, and then the whole reason I strayed away from this originally, and then this is back in January, I strayed away from this, and then I created natural gameplay. It's complete bunk. It's completely bogus. If not making mistakes is the right call, it's going to happen naturally. You can't force it. And then number two, I think it's kind of obvious. Right? I think it's kind of obvious. If you've ever been on a very good run, primarily you're avoiding making errors. I mean, this is low. This is elementary stuff. So it's bunk. It's bunk. This whole play without making errors, it doesn't work. Now it's interesting because it actually does work sometimes, or it can work very well. Why? Why would it? And this is a trap that people get stuck into because they'll do it once or twice, it works, and then it just stops working, and they're like, shit, well, I gotta try harder to make it work again, right? It's this trap and it's this cycle. They're inadvertently they're focusing. When you try to not make errors, try it out. I actually think every speedrunner should at least try this out once. If you're not going to try hard every single one, if you're not going to absolutely try your hardest and take every run at the maximum seriousness, which I think that's what I really think every speedrunner should be doing, taking every run the most serious pot they can. But so I don't think trying things out is a good idea ever. But most people aren't doing that. So instead of in one run where you just goof around, try out specifically and entirely avoiding making errors. Rule out everything else. Nothing else matters. Try it out because you're inadvertently, and I'm arguing you'll be successful, or at least you'll see a huge change. You'll inadvertently you're inherently focusing. You're actually focusing more by doing this because you're spending the whole run being like, oh shit, I can't make an error here, I can't make an error here, I can't make an error here. I have to do this, this, and this. And you actually end up focusing a lot more, which is why it's a placebo, basically. You placebo yourself into thinking this works. And that's pretty powerful. Because what happens is you stop trying. That's exactly the problem. So how do you get back good again? Yeah, you gotta try harder to focus, right? So it's not really, you gotta try harder to not make mistakes, and then you start focusing again. You start trying again. So it's not actually the not making mistakes thing that's doing anything here. It's the focusing, right? It's the focusing and it's the trying and these things. And actually, I think focusing is an effective trying. So focusing is also not the solution for the same reason that trying not to make errors is not the solution. Because if you try to focus, and actually, I think trying to focus is even worse because there's no objective. You're not by effect focusing. If you constantly trying to focus, you end up focusing on trying to focus, and then you're not focusing on the game, and it's like it just doesn't work. And that's the point. The whole point of all of this, actually, and I honestly think none of this even matters because take every run seriously. And if you're practicing something in the middle of a run, you're not taking it seriously. So reality is you shouldn't be doing any of this. So what should you be doing? And I'm arguing you should be trying, right? You should be taking the run seriously. What do you do on a PB pace run? The run it's minus 50. It's your best run ever. You're trying to get the goal a specific goal time. You're minus 50 and you're past all the major kill points. But you need to get a pretty decent run, and things could go wrong. But you're going to PB regardless if you just play good. So what are you going to do? And this is what always happens. People always start trying to an ultimate degree. They shut down and they make an effort and play to the ultimate degree. Unfortunately, they can only do it once every 6 months, and it's on one run. It's only on one run, and it's only on the PB pace run, which I guess is good that one run matters. But what happens is people end up losing a lot of runs, and they're not creating their gameplay around what makes that run good. They're not creating gameplay around that, and so they actually just end up being a lot worse. Where I think what that is very important. It's very important, and that's what needs to be. That's what gameplay needs to be created around, right? But how do you perform better? How do you try harder? And this is a big question, and this is actually something that occurred to me about a week ago. That I'm not really sure what the hell I meant or I was thinking. I really have absolutely no clue, but it's this idea called thought. Thought is actually it's the unifier here. Thinking is in fact the unifier, and I think thinking is actually a real counter to anxiety. I think thought is an actual real counter to anxiety, and I think how. So I argued there's no counter anxiety because anxiety makes you stop thinking. So if you have a counter to it, it doesn't work. But how could thought itself be a counter when anxiety makes you not think? Well, I think thought and anxiety exist in harmony. These two things exist in harmony, and there's a push and there's a pull. And the higher the anxiety, the less you're thinking, and the lower the anxiety, the more you're thinking, right? But it's not a scale of anxiety, right? It's not a scale of how low or high the anxiety is. It's actually both of these things in harmony with each other. And what you want to do is increase the thought, because a lot of times what happens is there's no anxiety, but there's also no thinking, right? And you could argue that there's a balance, there's harmony, which actually I think is fair. So maybe the goal is not harmony. The goal is not balance. Is not the goal here. You want to up the thinking, get the thinking, get thoughts to the. You want to be thinking the hardest. Gameplay comes down to thinking. It doesn't come down to It does not come down to luck and everything working and balance. Like a lot of people say gameplay comes down to balance. I don't know why people say that. They just seem to just say it. There's no thought there though. There's no thought there. Why does it come down to balance? I'm arguing it doesn't come down to balance. I'm arguing you want an imbalance of thought over anxiety. You want no anxiety and a extreme high thought. Why did I come up with this idea? I have no idea, guys. It's such a. These past 2 weeks, 4 weeks for me have been 2 weeks have been really intense. I was doing these mirror shield runs, and these mirror shield runs really did not go well at first. They were going really poorly, and that like got me really depressed. But then I turned it up, and I did my 3 best mirror shield runs all in a row. God runs, every single one of them, back to back to back. And I turned it up. This was shortly after I stopped looking at the timer, and I was hyper focused. That's why these runs are so good, because I was hyper focused the whole run. But it wasn't the focus. Again, it's not the focus. It's not actually. Well, I don't think it's the focus, right? Because what happens is the focus is an effect. It's always an effect. So you can't just say you're focused and then you're winning, right? What are you focused on? How are you focused? And why are you focused? That's the gameplay equation. It's not focus. It's not the gameplay. Focus is not the answer to the gameplay equation. The gameplay equation. I actually think thought is the answer to the gameplay equation, but I'm gonna hold back on that because I can't tell you for certain. You know what, guys? I'm gonna go back on something. So I said earlier, when there's no anxiety and no thought, there's a balance here, and you wouldn't necessarily want that, right? Because you want thought. I actually don't think that's true. I think you could want balance, and I'm not sold on that, but I actually don't think you can have a lack of either. I think this is a lie. This is the gameplay lie that everyone's constantly lying, and then the goal of gameplay is to alleviate this lie, right? And then through alleviating this lie, you actually create better gameplay. And the reason it's a lie is because they're not trying, right? People intentionally don't try so they can't fail, and that's why there isn't necessarily no anxiety, right? They'll pretend there's no anxiety. They're pretending there's no anxiety, and therefore there's no thought. Therefore, thought is not an answer here. And then when they do have anxiety, it's all about anxiety. This isn't true. It's just it's suppressed anxiety. So I actually do think anxiety still exists. When you're not thinking, there actually is anxiety, but it's suppressed anxiety. And again, the solution there is to think. It's still to think. It's to try. Thinking is an aspect of trying. Actually, I also think thinking is an aspect of trying. But that's what is interesting, right? So the real goal is to bring this lie to the front, expose the lie, and then through exposing the lie, how do you expose the lie? You try. Once you try, you can expose the lie, and I mean really try. Really try. And I've written out a simple definition of trying some of my previous videos, but some of the simple definition of trying: you can't give up. If you're trying, you can't give up. So if you ever give up, you weren't trying. So if you do find yourself giving up, you're not trying. Maybe you should reevaluate what you are doing and what you're not doing. And then you can't not try, right? You can't not try. This is another part of my definition of trying. Because if you try to not try, you're still trying. You're just trying for a really arbitrary objective. See, actually, you can't not try. Trying is unconditional, and then you can't give up. And by can't give up, again, I don't mean the objective is to not give up. I mean, it's not possible to simultaneously try and give up. If you give up, you weren't trying. And those two definitions of trying are very important, and they're a good foundation. If you want to start trying and you know you're going to start, look at those two foundational ideas. One of my tree branches of trying is actually, it's called taking something more seriously. So an aspect of trying is taking something more seriously, right? So I'm looking for natural ways to try. Natural ways to try. One of them is taking something more seriously. So practicing runs, doing silly strats, reading the chat constantly instead of focusing on the run, looking at the timer constantly. These are not taking it seriously at all. So these are some easy natural ways you can suddenly eliminate, never do them again because they're stupid, and then you'll try better. You're actually trying more by effect, which is great. That's the goal. The goal is to try more, and you're actually now trying more by effect. Not looking at the timer is one way to do this. So another way for me to argue, I argue that doing this is to think, right? But I actually think thinking is more. This is more going on. So thinking, I call thought. There's more going on with thought. I can't simply say it's A and B right now. So the taking something very seriously is obvious, in my opinion. And it actually, I've seen a huge improvement. You know what? I remember now. That consistency improvement I saw in October, that was actually completely an effect of taking the runs more seriously. It's completely an effect of taking the runs more seriously, in that I stopped doing strats I wasn't prepared for. It was completely that. And that's probably why I forgot, because that's completely natural. That's so natural that I had a complete mental game changer. That's a complete game changer. If you guys want to know become an alpha gamer and you're wondering, like, why am I saying becoming an alpha, subscribe to my channel, becoming an alpha gamer is going to change your gameplay. Why am I saying that? Am I just making things up? Am I telling you guys something that is too good to be true? No, this is real. It's not too good to be true. It's completely real. I did it in beginning of October. I forgot. I only now remembered. This is the whole point of natural gameplay, right? It's so natural that I don't have to remember it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to remember it. It's completely natural, and in fact, it's so natural that I did forget about it, but I'm still doing that in my runs. That's actually why I saw a consistency improvement in being October, which is hilarious. I've been wondering. I've been wondering about that for a while. It just like randomly occurred to me. But you know, it's not just that, and I've seen this insane improvement. I mean, this is an unbelievable improvement. At the beginning of this month, this whole focusing thing. I am by effect focusing far more in the game than ever before, but I would say this is the first time in my life I've ever done anything that's noteworthy in gameplay. I've ever done anything that's noteworthy outside of my extreme motivation and extreme determination. Outside of my theories, including natural gameplay, because my theories, including natural gameplay, are completely unique. There's 0 people in the world who think like this. There's 0 people in the world who have created theories like this. There's very few people in the world that can even understand my ideas. And my ideas are correct. That's the best part. My ideas actually work. They actually are correct. That's the best part. So I'm actually just way ahead of everybody else in that aspect. And then my motivation and determination, well, you guys already know how motivated I am. I'm a highly motivated person. I'm more motivated than most people. But I'm not really doing anything crazy in terms of motivation, in terms of the super elite, right? If you look at the super elite, it's not actually absurd. If you look at the super elite of gameplay, most speedrunners are non-factors. They're irrelevant. I always say there's no good speedrunners. I'm not just trying to be rude. I say that because there aren't actually any good speedrunners if you look at the super elite. If you're not looking at the super elite, why are you not looking at the super elite? It doesn't make much sense to me. I say, yeah, look at the super elite. I mean, somebody out there, Michael Jordan's a really good example. He makes an unbelievable effort. He made basketball his life. He performed it at the highest level consistently, you know? Or are we just going to ignore Michael Jordan and pretend that the people who are playing Super Mario 64 and Super Metroid and Link to the Past and, you know, Super Mario Sunshine, we're the best gameplay in the world? I mean, doesn't it seem a little offensive to people like Michael Jordan and Bruce Lee and, you know, the martial artist masters hundreds of years before? And I mean, you can even extend it to the Buddhists. The Buddhists hundreds of years, because the level of discipline and patience that they have displayed is exceptional. It's completely exceptional, and that's what a lot of gaming has come down to, discipline and patience. But this is the one thing that most of these people missed out, and this is why my theories are so powerful and game-changing. It's discipline and patience by effect. You don't choose to be disciplined. You don't choose to be patient, and then you're patient, and then your problems are solved, right? You need to choose gameplay, and that gameplay, by effect, makes you disciplined and patient. That's the secret. So, that's not really the answer, though. How do you do it? But it helps out. It helps out because you can stop forcing yourself to try to be disciplined. Instead, you can create gameplay that makes you disciplined by effect, and it's the same thing with focus. And so the primary goal here is the actual natural tryharding. Try harder, try by effect, and that's what we're doing, and that's why I stopped looking at the timer actually. And I saw a performance improvement far beyond anything I expected, far beyond anything I even possibly could have expected. Where I'm going to these runs, and it's not perfect. It actually is not perfect. A lot of the runs, and I would say, and I said this about a week ago, I'm still highly distracted. I'm not actually more focused. I'm still highly distracted. And so I'm not actually getting better results. But I'm a lot more inclined to focus, and I actually had a God run. Oh my God! I wish I told you guys sooner. This God run, is such a big deal for me. It's such a big deal for me. Holy shit! I gotta show you guys shit. I gotta show you. And so this is a god run. This is a god run, and you might not think it's a god run because I'm plus 30 seconds at the end. Obviously, that's not very good. I lost 12 seconds on Landmo. I lost 14 on Pod, and then 5 on Blue Balls, and Turtle Rock and Thieves Town were not very good. And then Eastern was terrible. So that's a rundown of the run. 124.02, which is a very good run, and then had some good splits. So why is this a god run? Because Escape Eastern were terrible, and then I think I got a 6 cycle. So Desert was actually very good, and then I got a 6 cycle. So it was like basically plus the run's like basically over. And then Hera was really good. Aggie Tower was good. That's really sick. And then I got 2 blue balls. So I'm only plus 23, which is fine. I made one mistake in Palace of Darkness. It was actually a gold pace Palace of Darkness. I made one error. I missed the arrow in the statue, and I had to go back to get more arrows. And I got hit by the spike twice. So I probably lost 12 seconds on that, I want to say. But I lost 14 on the split. So after that, I made very few errors. Thieves Town was not good. Skullwoods was solid. Ice was good. Swamp was solid. Meyer was good. And Ganon's Tower was very good. Ganon and Death Mountain was bad. Ganon was pretty solid. So I just didn't lose it any time anywhere. The whole reason this is a god run is because I was highly focused. And on the right stuff. And I played phenomenally. Completely phenomenally. And this is pretty much how... If I want to get the record in this game, or to play as good as I want to play... You know, because it's not even really about getting the record. It's really about playing as good as I want to play. I have to do this every run. And this is the start. Because this is the reality of this run. I saved 10 seconds. From these to the end, I saved 10 seconds. I've never done this in a run. That's the first time I've ever done that. Sub 7 Ganon's Tower was nothing, no good RNG. I don't think I've ever done that. Maybe once. And then... and the real reason is I basically just didn't make any errors. I basically just made very few errors, and I was highly focused the whole run. And this is what happens in Link to the Past when you play good. You save time everywhere, and this run is fucking phenomenal. It doesn't even have that good RNG. I think I had 2 Ganon Warps and 2 Blue Balls, which is, I mean, it's decent. But I'd say that's good. I'd say that's good RNG. It's not great RNG. It's still 18 seconds or so. But the circumstances, and the worst part is I lost probably 10 seconds between Pod and Thieves. Or Thieves and T-Rock, I probably lost 10 seconds. And to me, that's fucking nuts. That is fucking nuts. Because my best run was minus 40. My best run was minus 40 at Pod, minus 40 at Thieves, minus 40 the whole way until, I think Ganon's Tower. Yeah, I must have had a minus 40 T-Rock. And then Ganon's Tower was bad. So, my best run was minus 40 on this whole thing. And it's true. And this is just how good this run was past Pod. The thing is, too, here's another thing. Usually when your run's dead, you stop focusing, right? And that's another reason this run is so exceptional for me. Because it was completely dead, and then I started focusing. I don't usually do that. And a lot of that was due to the fact that I don't look at the timer anymore. And so I'm more likely to be focused. So... This was the benefit I was trying to achieve by not looking at the timer anymore, and I tried doing this in previous runs or runs afterwards, and I haven't been able to do it at all. So this isn't solved. This isn't solved. I'm not actually a better player. If I can ever do this again in my life, holy fuck, holy shit, this isn't. Every single time I get a run like this, believe me, I've gotten probably 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 runs like this in my life. Maybe 20 or 30. I have never gotten a run like this plus 40. What the fuck? I've never in my life gotten a plus 40 because I usually am more tilted. There's absolutely no sense of tilting here, and in fact, I started playing so good I was like nervous. I was like nervous because I was playing so good. If you get 0 blue balls, if you're on a good run, it's a million times easier to try. It's hard to try on dead runs like this, and this is why this is probably the best run I ever did. If you look at like actual content, which is to me really sick. and I wanted to repeat it. I was never able to. Now I'm okay with that because I'm actually not playing that good. Like, I'm playing decent. I'm playing better than I was in October, I believe, but I'm actually not playing that good. But one thing I did learn that I can do is actually, I learned that this whole thought thing, when I try to force it, doesn't work. Okay, that sucks. I mean, I already know that. Like, I think that's all I got. Okay, one thing I've learned: if you try to force anything, it doesn't work. It's one of Zelda's as dumb as a person I think Zelda is, personality wise, he's very good at games and he has some good advice. And one of the things he said, don't force anything. He just said don't force anything, and I think that's interesting because natural gameplay says don't force anything. And once I started thinking more about that, I'm like, yeah, I've never in my life forced anything and ever had a good result. Sometimes when you force things, it works, but then it's not recreatable. That's the whole point. So it's just never a good idea. And I think it's interesting because you can't force not forcing things, but that's the whole point. It comes down to beliefs, right? That's what natural gameplay is. It comes down to beliefs, and you already have beliefs. Go with those beliefs. If they're bad beliefs, why do you believe in them? Change them. You know, if you believe in them, so they should be good, right? That's what you believe in. That's the whole point of natural gameplay. It was just an interesting argument, and it's like really hard to argue that. And actually, it's good that it's hard to argue that because you can believe in it, and then you can start creating beliefs, changing your beliefs, right? Changing your beliefs are actually that hard. I never believed in any of the shit I'm saying right now. Well, I just changed my mind a little bit, and then I stopped resetting. I still haven't looked at my timer, and I started doing something else. I started actually using thought to do simple stuff. So simple stuff, and it's mostly in Super Mario World. Actually, it's not as much in Link to the Past, and I think that's because I've actually just been playing more Super Mario World lately. But yeah, in Super Mario World, so entering doors. So logically on entering doors, and this is why I think Super Mario is a great game. I love playing Super Mario World. I'm so glad I picked that game up. And it's for things exactly like this. So Super Mario World is actually pivotal for me to learn about this whole taking runs more seriously thing. Actually, this stems from Super Mario World because Link to the Past is a punishing game, but it's punishing, it'll nickel and dime you everywhere. Super Mario World straight up, you just lose 2 minutes. You make one small error and you lose 2 minutes. So one thing I started doing in Super Mario World is I needed to take these runs more seriously. I had to stop practicing strats. And that actually helped my Link to the Past gameplay out significantly. So another thing I started doing in Super Mario World recently, well, I stopped looking at my timer when I'm playing Link to the Past, right? But in Super Mario World, there's actually a timer at the top of the screen, right? Like right here, there's a timer. And so I'll enter a door down here. I enter the door right here, and then my eyes go up here. My eyes are here when I enter the door, but then my eyes go up to here. There's no point. This timer is useless. There's no point to look at it. And when I'm playing Link to the Past, I have to shift my whole head over to look at the timer for Link to the Past. So it was a lot easier to stop doing that because it's like, okay, I don't have to do this really awkward motion. Looking at the timer in the past in Mario World, it's just an eye movement up, and this is such a quick eye movement. You're talking fractions of a frame. Very small denomination of a single frame. It's that quick, your eyes will shift up and then shift back down, and then it'll process in your brain. This is actually the level of processing your brain that your brain works with. This is part of the reason people fail in gaming so much, because they think it's these simple, large processes that matter. It comes down to these super small. I mean, we're talking how many interactions, how many processes are going on in your brain in an hour and a half speedrun. Millions. If not millions, billions. Like, there's that many. It's absurd. And one of these is looking at the timer. So I stopped doing that in Mario World, actually. Because it's the same reason. And this is why if you actually stop mechanically looking at your timer, it doesn't really accomplish anything. One, I don't think you could force yourself to do it because eventually you'd go back. And then number two, the reasoning's not there. But for me, the reasoning is why I stopped looking at my timer. And so in Super Mario World, once I realized I was looking at the game timer, I stopped looking at it because the game timer is not relevant information. And actually, since I stopped doing that, it has been easier for me to enter certain doors. So a lot of the doors I was already pretty good at entering, but there's a lot of the doors I was very bad at entering, the ones with like complex inputs. And I've actually become much better at entering those doors because I realized all you have to do is focus on entering the door, and usually this comes down to like a two-step process. And it's all it is press up when you're in the door range, right? I mean, that's the one step. Some of them are 2 steps. So like the floating mechanics. So you have to wait until not only are you above the door, but actually on the ground, right? So it's a 2-step mechanic, and then you press up. You wait till you're on the door, and then you press up, right? So it's not complicated, right? This is why people usually downplay it and be like, no, I can look at the timer and talk to the chat and do all these things and still play optimally, right? And then they get the optimal result, and they think they can play optimally. That's not how it works. That's actually how it works. That's how gameplay works. That's the antithesis of natural gameplay. This is what perfect natural gameplay and macro natural gameplay aims to achieve. It's this understanding that actually gameplay is it's a highly complex system, and there's levels. The results themselves are not relevant to this, and the results don't have levels. Like results are objective and they're black and white. Your skill is not objective, and skill is you can get the same result and have 2 widely different skilled players. So that's fine. But what happens is people do is they try to mimic. They try to pretend they're as good as the highest level skill, right? It's called ego theory. It's called ego theory. They try to assume they're the highest level skilled player by attaining the similar result or attaining a result and then using that result to subset as their gameplay. But that's not how gameplay works. And so what happens is they don't try, and then what happens is they are constantly in this cycle of doubt and cycle of this feedback cycle, or they lose. It's a losing feedback cycle. It's very bad. And that's what macro natural gameplay, perfect natural gameplay aim to solve. And it's not that hard. I'm doing it live because once I realized this, but I realized it was gameplay back in January. I already knew about how it worked with specific gameplay interactions. Now I'm doing it for over a time period. So before it was just specific game interactions. It's one-dimensional, but now it's multi-dimensional because it's over a time period. It's for specific game interactions over a time period. And this time period is with these doors, right? So it's not just entering the door that I can naturalize. It's how I enter the door and what's going on in my brain as I enter a door and all this crap. So I'm not looking at a timer. So if somebody looks at the timer and somebody doesn't look at the timer and they both enter the door in the same frame, it's the same interaction, right? And let's say they both naturalize the entering the door. They both take in. You have 2 players. Let's go back. Basic, very basic. 2 players. One is good at entering the door, and one guy does an overcomplicated strat and is bad at entering the door, right? But his strat's like a frame faster theoretically in his head. Usually it's wrong. In his head, it's a frame faster. Who's right? So the noob will say the guy who's doing a frame faster is right. This is what noobs are. There's a lot of them. Stay with these people. They pretend they're gods at gaming. They're not. They're false gods. Go with the guy who's actually entering the door, right? He's doing it slower, but he's entering the door, so he ends up being faster. He's better, so he's first place. Go with first place. And then you have... I say, hey, there's this idea of natural gameplay. I want you to improve. Think about it. And they think about it, and they're like, well, you know what? I believe in this shit. So then they naturalize their gameplay. Now they're doing the exact same thing. So they're equivalent, right? And this is where they're not actually equivalent because player 1's not looking at the timer. He's completely focusing on entering the door. And player 2 is completely distracted and he's nervous and he's panicking. But he still enters the door because it's a natural, because he naturalized it. He can still enter the door. That's the whole point of natural gameplay. It naturalizes this stuff, right? It means you can do it regardless of the circumstances. That's why it's natural. So they do the same thing, right? No. This is natural gameplay applied to natural gameplay. It's macro natural gameplay. I also call it perfect natural gameplay. Because the point is, it's not naturalizing the strategy anymore. It's the concept of natural gameplay applied again to the whole time lapse. Not just the specific interaction, it's the whole time lapse. That's why. And so when you start looking at the timer in Mario World, in Link to the Past, in Dragon Quest 3 or whatever, Super Metroid, it doesn't matter what game, you're actually still using a result to determine your success. And it's actually wrong. And this is why I stopped looking at the timer. And not only why did I stop looking at the timer, but this is why I started succeeding so much and I've been focusing so much more. And that whole interaction I explained, that's actually a real thing that's happened to me in the game. And I've actually seen an improvement from it too, which is cool. But why it's cool, why I like it, is because it actually is an effect. I'm focusing more. By effect, I'm actually focusing more. Right, so this is what I was saying. The whole goal is to focus more, but it's by effect. This is actually focusing by effect, which is I think is really cool. And it's a point that most people completely ignore and miss. And I think that's sad. But most people are not determined. They're not alpha gamers, and they're not motivated to win. And guys, if you want to become an alpha gamer, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Click the red box right here. Right here, click the red box. You're going to become an alpha gamer, and you're going to be highly motivated, and you're going to win. You're going to start winning. I can guarantee you your gameplay will dramatically change if you become an alpha gamer. This is why this is focusing by effect, and it's why I actually think I can. I'm not doing too well right now. Like, I've only had 2 good runs out of 8. That's not good. Usually it's 4 out of 8. 2 out of 8 is bad, and actually usually it's like 6 out of 8. But or like 8 out of 8, you know. But I don't care about that, right? I don't care about results. That's the whole point of natural gameplay. Who cares about results? It's the gameplay that matters, and then because results are variable. If you break your hand, you're going to get worse results, right? And so if you depend your life on results, you're probably going to quit the game. But somebody who doesn't depend their life on results, they depend their life on input, which is self, motivation, trying. You know, these are all inputs. Well, motivation is an aspect of self. Trying is an aspect of self. These are inputs, right? Beliefs are inputs too, because they're unconditional. If you depend your life on unconditional things, and actually everything's an input, but you have output-based inputs and input-based inputs. You want input-based inputs, right? If you depend your life on those, such as trying unconditional beliefs, unconditional, you're not going to give up when you break your hand. It's unconditional. You'll keep going. You just try harder. You find a way to play. And then guess what? 2 years later, your hand heals. And then you start becoming a god. You become a god. This happens. This happens to all these God gamers. All these top winners, hard winners. This is what happens to them, right? They play for every YouTuber, every successful YouTuber. Same deal. Some of them randomly get successful from the start. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Most of them struggle for 2 years. But they keep going because it's unconditional, and then they win, right? So what else is unconditional? Beliefs are unconditional, and trying is unconditional. This is why this is how you win. How do you improve at games? Target your beliefs. Find out your beliefs. Target your beliefs. Change your beliefs, right? Start trying. That's how you change. That's how you improve at video games, because they're unconditional. You know, they're gonna change the system regardless. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna get out here. I just wanted to say I wanted to stress primary points of this video. Thought is a very interesting concept. It's very new to me, and I think there's very big potential behind this. If I pull out some insanely good speedruns in the next 6 months, 2 months to 6 months, I can guarantee you there's gonna be a vlog on thinking and thought, because that is a very, very, very powerful idea. It's a very powerful idea. Another one, this whole not making mistakes argument, it's completely bogus. Ignore people that say this. It's not real. And then I think not making mistakes is right, but it's not the input. It's not the cause. It's the effect, right? So ignore people that say that. It's bogus. And then also, my ability to focus has dramatically improved in the past week and a half. I have no idea how or why. I have no idea. And this is the first time in my life I've seen a gameplay change. That's what I want to tell you guys. Anyway, keep it real, guys. Make sure to stay subscribed. Make sure to tune in next time. Have fun and get out there gaming and become an alpha gamer. Guys, become positive, stay positive, be real, change your gameplay, and get those PBs, get those records, win those tournaments. I know you guys can. I'll see you guys later.